question. If you have gone through the agenda, probably you can immediately answer. Even otherwise, you can make a guess. 2009, Jan 7, the corporate world had the biggest shock. So, by one particular news, any guess? What was it?
Raju declaring that
yes.
news.
So Ramalinga Raju, the CEO and the founder of Satyam Computer, admitted that he has fudged the accounts, and that was the biggest revelation because he could not. He was trying to manipulate the accounts for. Hope I will take little more time than the specific time because we have limited players there.
Yeah.
So no timer, you don't have to show me the card.
In fact, because
yes, probably I will take little more time.
yeah.
So Ramalinga Raju was trying to compete with other IT companies, and he was ambitious, and then he started manipulating the accounts. And at one point of time, he could not do further. So even he was trying to divert the funds to his own real estate company called Matos, and all the board members and the investors, they started objecting it. And at one particular point of time, he started divulging the truth. And on the day, the entire world, not only Indian corporate world, the entire global corporate world had a shock because that was never admitted. So many scams have been found by the authorities or the police, but CEO coming and admitting that he has made a biggest mistake, especially on the accounts, that was the first ever corporate story. Okay, so last 29th of October, so I attended an event organized by Madras Management Association. So in this particular event, there was a book release. So this book release was organized by Madras Management Association and some of the other co-sponsoring agencies. That happened in the posh hotel, Leela Palace in Aripura. And this is the place where the interesting book was released. So actually the English version of the book was released 2 years back. So in different cities. Nowadays a book release means not on a specific date. Even after 6 months they can come to a different city and re-release it. So it is not the fresh release. So 2 years back this book has been written. And in Chennai after 2 years they have released the book as well as the Tamil version of the book. So the book is called Satyam Computer in Maripirappu. So actually the English version of the title was The Phoenix of the Corporate World, Satyam's 100 Days. So this book is written by Mr. T.N. Manogaran and Mr. Pattabhiram. So both are chartered accountants. So why Mr. Manogaran has chosen this topic? Because he was playing a crucial role in resurrecting Satyam Computers. How many of you heard this word resurrect?
Resurrection. Yeah.
What is the name?
Jesus was.
Correct.
Jesus
So it is like a Maripirappu. So on that particular book release function, this word was frequently used. So I thought that was the word of the day for them. Then I wanted to get the exact meaning of it. It is nothing but Maripirappu. So how Satyam was taking the rebirth. So that is the story. So as soon as this scam was announced, admitted by Ramalinga Raju, immediately government plunged into action. So not because of any vested interest. So not because to protect some politicians or someone like that. So at that point of time, Corporate Affairs Ministry immediately formed the next day itself, they formed that a new board will take over. And they try to bring in the best of breed of people who can take control, because the reason is India is earning so much of foreign exchange through the software services. So the same kind of events have happened in the abroad. For example, some of them are some of these scams have happened, and that particular government they allowed it to happen. So and they allowed the stock exchange to take care, and finally those companies collapsed. So what is that company? Financial.
Enron.
No, financial company. Okay, I am unable to recollect the name. So they allowed to die, but the Indian government did not want to allow this die, because not only the Satyam employees and their customers will be affected, it is also going to give a very big reputation problem amongst the global software industry. So immediately they plunged into action, and then they tried to appoint the best of breed to monitor this and take over. So immediately the company law board dissolved this board of Satyam, because at least 2 or 3 people are involved. So fortunately, Raju admitted saying that none of the major leaders, the GMs or the head of departments, they were involved in this scam. He and his brother Rama Raju, who was the then there was a CFO called Srinivas Vadlamani. only some 4 or 5 people were involved. So the rest of them, they were totally in dark. So that is the kind of scam. So only select people were intelligent in this talk. So Mr. Manokaran was one among them. He was the chairman of Canara Bank and he was also the president of the Chartered Accountants, the institution. He was the president. And he has handled a couple of case studies like this. So how to revive a company like that. And Deepak from HDFC and then the Kiran Kornik from NASCOM. So all these 6 people, they were put together. And they were given all kind of empowerment. And all kind of empowerment to revive the board. So as soon as this scam happened, many MNC companies, they want to disconnect the contract between Satyam and others. But some of them could not do it because switching over to another partner, that itself is a big task. So they have to identify, do the knowledge transfer, and it is a big task for them. And some of them, they wanted to continue with Satyam because there was no other option. Okay. So at this point of time, so actually, during this book release function, actually the panelists asked a question. So what is the biggest challenge? So where were you getting the biggest challenge when this resurrection journey was happening? So Mr. Manokaran mentioned that the government appointed the board, the 6-member board, and they are given all kind of support, but actual problems started coming from all government agencies. So because government is different and the government agencies are different. So at this point of time, we realize that government is not a single entity. So for example, immediately the income tax department sent a notice saying that this particular month you are not deducted tax at source and you are not paid that tax deducted at source, and we are giving you show cause notice, and we are also advising Reserve Bank of India to close all your accounts. Then immediately the Provident Fund authorities, they sent a notice saying that if PF deducted from the salary of the employee, you are not remitted. So these are all the heinous crimes, right? So immediately all these agencies and all banks who normally used to come and sit in the corporate office to offer loans, then they started asking for the refund of the whatever the debts taken by Satya Computer. So actually he said that only the government agencies were giving lot of troubles, and whenever they discussed with the government agencies, so for example, when they discussed with the IT authorities, the IT authority was saying that if I don't take action, then tomorrow I will be in suit. So I will be taken for a task, even I may be arrested for showing bias or partiality for that. So that is the kind of challenges. So the challenges came from government agencies, the challenges came from the customers. Customers, they were immediately ready to withdraw, and some of them, they terminated the contract the very next day. And a lot of senior leaders started quitting because they were clueless. So what is going to happen? And there was so much of panic amongst employees whether they will continue or whether they will receive salary or not. So when this challenge was happening, the 6-member team started talking to the people. So you all may be wondering why I'm talking about a book which has got a scam, finance kind of stuff. But when I read that book, from a Toastmaster point of view, I took a different perspective. So actually the resurrection happened within 100 days. So after 100 days, Tech Mahindra has taken over. And the 100 days journey, so what one remarkable thing that has happened in this 100 days journey was all about discussions, speaking and talking. So these 6-member board, they were talking to the customers, they were talking to the bankers, they were talking to authorities like the SEBI, Reserve Bank of India, Company Law Board. And when they talk, so most of them, they fall under one category called our S12 CC9 project. Remember, sir? So CC9, persuasive speech. So the persuasive speech. So when income tax authority said that as per law, you have to, and these people, they said that no, all this can happen in the previous board, and today it is very difficult for us to give it. No, as on date, you are the board members and we want to take action. If you are not paying, you may get arrested. Right? That is the kind of intensity of the problem. And at this point of time, they realized the seriousness because Mr. Manokaran and a couple of others, they were never been in corporate life. They were just a chartered accountants, and they were holding some positions in some ordinary bodies. They never know about the corporate governance at all. So for the first time, they were in the board, and they started looking like the seriousness of the problem as well as their responsibility. And they started talking to people, and at this point of time, they started persuading all the key stakeholders. So persuasion involves two important aspects. Again, any of these senior was supposed to remember what are the two important things which are needed for making a persuasive speech. Okay.
Request.
One is logic and the second one is emotion. So persuasive speech, at the end of the speech, always it will conclude with a call for action. Even normally when election speeches, Jayalalitha used to ask, Sevirgala, Sevirgala. So you would have seen that a lot of inspirational speakers, when they make a persuasive speech, at the end they will call for action and they want some assurance from the audience. So that is the kind of speech they were making. One logic, second one is emotion. So logic alone, no. So they were trying to explain authority saying that right now even we don't have funds to give salary for the employees. These are all facts, figures, logic, etc. But that alone was not sufficient. They have to go and talk from employees' perspective. And for these people, they are now learning from starting from 30,000 to 3 lakhs per month. Many employees, if they are all fired or if they are losing a job, so not only the employees, their families and all their stakeholders, a huge population will be affected. So that is how they try to mix emotions and then they were making an appeal to the agencies. And in fact, so after these persuasive speeches, lot of amendments happened and they were all given lot of exemptions. Lot of exemptions were given. And for example, when each one of them, they traveled to different regions like Middle East, US, Australia, talking to all the customers. Mr. Manoharan went to Middle East, and the moment he talked to one of the customers, the CEO said, "No, you don't waste my time. I don't want to listen to you. You are from a company with the fraud. No, we are here to revive the company." He bluntly said no. Then he started moving to another customer, and he was all talking about this. And at this point of time, he also tried to narrate a little bit of stories like Toastmasters, like small incidents. So at this point of time, Dr. Manmohan Singh was the Prime Minister, and Dr. Manmohan Singh at that point of time, he was taken to hospital for a surgery. So at that point of time, before getting into the operation theatre, he asked one of his associates, so what is happening in Satyam? So is there any progress? So he just made an inquiry. So the kindful gesture, he made an inquiry. So that was shared by Manmohan's PM's office. Then he started telling this to the employees in the Middle East. And most of these employees, they have to immediately vacate the country because many of them, their visa was about to get expired. And to renew their visa, normally when the business was as usual, the visa agencies will be paid lump sum like 10 lakhs, 20 lakhs every month based on their billing, and they will continuously do the renewal for all the employees. But the visa agencies refused to take up because they were not sure whether they are going to get money. Already some backlog was there, and everyone knew that the funds was the negative, right? So at that point of time, they didn't want to take. So now the employees have to come back. Even to come back, they need money, employees. So at that point of time, when employees were in a confused and chaos state, Mr. Manoharan said that this is how the country's head is showing up interest in this particular initiative. So Manmohan Singh asked about the Satyam's progress and he was updated, and that was a little bit of assurance for them. And so as I said, the Middle East, the very first company who refused to meet this team. So after 2 days, that CEO called and said, "I know that you are all taking a lot of efforts and we would like to continue our contract." So something like that. So this is one aspect, that is continuous 100 days from morning 6 a.m. till evening, because they were talking to different geographies. Talking. So they were not actually making a speech. So speech is slightly different from talking. So during this talk, they try to bring in logic and emotion to convince the stakeholders, and many of the customers were willing to give support. And in fact, when people were, so immediately a lot of IT companies started coaching the key leaders, right? So at that point of time, then they also talked to NASSCOM. NASSCOM is the body, the central body of all the software companies. Through the NASSCOM, a circular was sent to all the IT companies not to coach the leaders. So that at least some key leaders are needed here at the point of crisis. And so that is how the leaders were treated. So they convinced the leaders to be there and continue their journey. And they asked the employees continuously, the video conferences were happening. In fact, I was also part of that time. So I started my career in Satyam in 2005, and during the crisis I was there. And fortunately I was in a billable project and nothing happened. So in fact, I used to come for lunch from my office. So when I came for lunch, my mother started saying, have you seen the news? What has happened? Actually, at that point of time, I never realized the seriousness of it. I know that something has happened, but my mother was smart enough and she started asking about my future and all. Unfortunately, I was in a Melbourne project. I continued there till 2019, except for 2 years I was away. So I know what all happened. So this book is revealing all the stories. So one is logic and emotion while speaking and convincing people. Second thing, when I went through this, when I bought this book, the foreword is written by Mr. Anand Mahindra. So Anand Mahindra has also mentioned that the humor sense of Mr. T.V. Manoharan during board meetings. I was awestruck, right? And so Mr. Manoharan is a person with the numbers. He is a chartered accountant, and all his credentials, talk about his profession. So he is not a public speaker. He is not. So we all know that chartered accountants and the doctors. Of course, today doctors, lot of doctors talk about humorical stories. Dr. Paul and others, after seeing that, you change your opinion. But chartered accountants, we feel that they can never indulge in humor. So he mentioned about it, and I was wondering how you would have talked in a humor with a humor sense during board meetings, kind of stuff. But during this book release function, which happened for 1 hour, I could get a glimpse of it. So then I realized that humor is also important when you talk about a very serious subject. So I'll give a couple of instances. One is humor comes. You don't have to bring a force with humor when you talk something with irony or some subject with the oxymoron subject, right? Then you get the humor. So at this point of time, he was saying that when Manoharan was a chartered accountant student, when he was a student amongst the people, they used to discuss whether accountancy is an art or science. Anyone with accounts background? Yeah? You are? Okay. Accounts, is it an art or science? Science. Okay. So he was saying that we used to discuss whether it is an art or science, but when
Because
we got
it is
into
engineered. It is a science because it is engineered.
Good one. So he said that we were debating whether it is an art or science, but when we get into Satyam, then we realized that it is neither art nor science, it is a fiction. So actually he was telling a fact, so he was not cracking a joke. The second thing, here he is trying to build a joke. Even when you are talking about humorous joke, he said that set the context and try to build up and then finally come out with the unexpected twist. Second one is sharing the fact. So as I said earlier, when someone asked who was the most troublemaker during this journey, he said government. People were taken aback. Government only empowered. No. Government empowered, but government agencies, they started giving front. So he was sharing a fact with the ironic content. So that also brought humor. And then last he came out with an anecdote, right? People trying to follow when the agencies said, no, as per rule, this is what we are supposed to do, kind of stuff. So at this point of time, he shared a story which was little fictitious, but definitely conveyed the message. Actually, long time back, an engine driver was he was driving a railway train, and all of a sudden someone intervened, someone obstructed the path, and then finally this driver lost control, and then he took the engine, he took it in a different direction, and the train went into a paddy field and injured or killed some nearly 100 people. But obviously the authorities will ask for, they will call him for, what is that? Inquiry. So then they call him for an inquiry. So he said, what happened? So no, I was driving, one person came and then I tried to take action, then that is what the result. You have 27 years of experience and you should have the common sense says that 100 lives are important than one person. You should have run over him. So this is basic common sense, right? So this is what you would have said. So then the agent driver replied, having 27 years of experience, do you think I don't know all that? So when he was trying to cross over, I tried to run over him. But that particular idiot, he went into the paddy field and then I hit him. So actually, this is definitely this would have never happened. For a fictitious story, with 2 minutes you can explain the story. But with the power of storytelling, he conveyed the biggest truth, right? Many people, statutory authorities, blindly follow rules, right? Blindly follow what senior says. No, they don't apply the wisdom, right? So they try to take bookish knowledge and then try to apply. So basically what I felt, I started reading with the mindset that I want to relive the journey what happened in Satyam, so during 100 days. But at the end of reading this book, I got totally a different perspective. How during a crisis, speaking skills help. So primarily this happened, and at the even before 100th day, some bidders were asked to bid for the project, and finally Tech Mahindra bidded, and they were declared as the winner to take over the company, and finally Satyam became Satyam Mahindra, and finally it also became Tech Mahindra. So today Tech Mahindra still seems to be the top 5 companies who are providing IT and ITES services. So the entire book talks about, so if you are a Toastmaster, if you buy whether Tamil version or English version, see it from that perspective, how speaking you can, because even some occasions, Manoharan was asked by press reporters, what if someone is not taking over this company? So they went to the public and said that the company is ready for taking over by another company. So that for all the formalities are complete. And on a particular day, the people have, corporate companies have to submit the bid, and reporters were asking him, so what would happen if no one, there are no takers? No takers means so then it is going to spoil the reputation of not only the company, it is also going to spoil the reputation of the 6-member team. So at that time, he said that we have plan B. So actually, reality was there was no plan B. So on the day, he tried to manage that. So the presence of time, all that, so every point of time I read it from the speaker perspective or Toastmaster perspective. So I strongly recommend you to buy this, whether you can buy English version or Tamil version. Both are really good. So with that, I conclude my management book review. Over to Toastmaster.
Thank you.